Hello everyone, my name is Usman and today we are discussing about mental health with Barkha Nayak. She is a counseling psychologist and a psychiatrist. Welcome Barkha.
Thank you so much. And
And
it's great you took this initiative.
oh yeah, thank you so much and I apologize to waking you up so early because
Yeah,
after
that's
this
all
we
right.
have to get back to our normal jobs.
Yeah, well,
So
yeah.
yeah, just jumping right into it. Mental health.
hmm
It's been
Yeah.
it's been in the limelight for a very obvious reason. I would
hmm
like to ask you about mental health, that why did it take us so long to arrive to just start discussing about mental health?
Okay. So, Usman, I think just like every other societal issues, like women issues take so long, menses take so long, right? LGBTQ took so long. Similarly, mental health is a social issue, right? And that's why it took its due course. I still think it's not enough out there, and people don't appreciate and understand the importance of mental health. So, that's probably the reason it took so long. Also, specifically in India, the masses aren't very highly educated and scientific thinkers. So a lot of times oddities of behavior even today in a lot of segments of the society are attributed not to problems in body and mind, but they're attributed to supernatural elements, right? I
Hmm.
actually know people from educated backgrounds who are going to babas and shamans, and I think that needs to change. How we understand mental health issues need to change.
Yeah, so in a way that mental health is stigmatized to an extent that people don't even come out and talk about it.
Yeah, and that's because we pressurize our people and ourselves a lot. Okay, and this pressure has evolved in a way that we have started internalizing the idea: if I am not doing perfectly fine, there is something severely wrong with me, right? And when you start saying things like that, of course, it's going to trouble you. And that's why people don't come out with this, because they think there is something wrong with them if that's happening.
Can you define mental toughness for me?
Ah, mental toughness, according to me, is just, in simple words, thinking rationally, logically about a given situation without jumping to conclusions, and therefore having some amount of emotional regulation and control. And anybody who can think in that manner to control and regulate their own emotions automatically ends up responding to situations in a much healthier manner. And I think that is mental toughness.
So, what I understand is that different people think differently. Like, not everyone is rational thinker. Certain people are driven by emotion. Certain people are driven by rational thinking, right? So, do you
Yeah.
think that a person who is more emotional and still
Mhm.
ends up thinking rationally is more mentally tough than a person who's thinking rationally?
Okay, no. Now, it's important that we understand here that our thoughts come before our emotions, meaning the way you think is the way you act. And that's the reason even two identical twins may not react in the exact same manner to a same situation,
Yeah.
right? And therefore, if you think rationally, you will emote in a healthy manner. You will feel healthier emotions that push you to respond. If you think irrationally, or if you jump to conclusions too much, or think extremely negatively, it will not make you respond and feel in a healthier manner.
So, I've seen this, and this is personal experience as well.
hmm
Your thoughts are mostly negative, and your thoughts will overpower you if you're not doing something. Like people, if someone says that, okay, I have these negative thoughts, people's
Yeah.
response is stop thinking about it,
Ah,
or
right.
put yourself to work, do something productive. So what is
Right.
your take on it?
Okay, so we have learned to divide this world, the entire world, in black and white. As simple as, if you're not the first, you're a failure, right?
Yeah.
If you don't do it very well, don't do it at all.
Hmm.
Similarly, if you're thinking negative, think positive. And that is my problem, right? I very strongly believe positive thinking is kind of bullshit. Okay,
Hmm.
when there is a threat in front of you, you can't feel and think positively. If you've lost a loved one, right? Say if I lost my mother, I can't think positive in that fucking situation, right?
Hmm.
So positive thinking is not a natural. Okay, it will not every situation requires and calls for a positive thinking response. And there's a huge difference between telling yourself, oh, nothing's working and it's the end of the world. A huge difference to tell yourself that, oh, nothing's working but it's all going to be fine, which is positive thinking. And a huge difference in telling yourself nothing's working and it sucks, but let's see if there's anything we can do about it.
So it's you
Right,
think
so
about it and then you think for a way out.
right. In short, this is something I call rational thinking, right? Where you acknowledge that things are bad, where you feel bad because things are bad. But at the same time, it's not sucking out all of the hope and will, right? And it's also not pumping you in with unrealistic and fake hope and will.
Yeah, so it's like it's interesting you say that because it's reminding me of a Carl Jung statement that he made on depression, particularly,
Mhm.
where he says that depression is like a woman in black. If she turns up, don't shoo her away, invite her in, offer her a seat, treat her like a guest, and listen to what she has to say. It's basically saying that
Right.
you need to acknowledge that you have some thoughts, and these thoughts are trying to tell you something.
Absolutely. For example, say if you flunk a very important exam or you fail to clear a very important interview in your life, it's essential that you feel bad about it. Otherwise, how are you supposed to take an action? Right?
Yeah.
Soch ke dekho, like if there's a tiger in front of you and if you don't feel scared at all, would you really have the will to fight and run?
Yeah,
Right?
that's a good
No.
point. Yeah.
Right. So it's essential by law of nature to feel negative things in negative situations because those are essential to push you. Very simple example, right? When you feel a grumbling stomach, it's not a happy feeling, but that exact grumbling stomach makes you walk to the kitchen and eat something, right? It helps you literally survive. So it's important to feel something negative if you wish and expect yourself to act. And it's natural to feel negative emotions. If somebody randomly comes and slaps you, you will feel angry. If you see a tiger, you will feel scared, right? And when you feel depressed, this means you're feeling negative about something. It's important to find out why, what, when, where, right? And
Hmm.
address those issues rather than saying, no, everything is fine and only thinking positive and hiding behind a blanket.
Yeah, all right. So now I feel that there are two ways in which negative emotions come through to you. One is situation that is in your life, and the other
Right.
part, which I feel is very prevalent in today's society, is your peer group, like people
Hmm.
around you. So I somehow feel that there is a lack of empathy for people, and there is this culture that has come up. It's more of a bully culture where you don't like someone, so you bombard them with so much negative words. You try to pull them down, and then that plays heavily on people, especially children, because they are coming up
Yeah.
and they feel very insecure about a lot of things. What are your comments on
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think I will blame this entire thing on technology, frankly, right?
that? Okay.
We as a generation have learned to not be patient. We as a generation are reducing our amount of tolerance for difficult situations. Earlier when we had to meet a loved one, we had to wait till they could get to us, right? If we wanted to shop, we had to wait for Diwali or Christmas or Eid or your birthday because that's when you shopped. But now everything is so simple that we do not have any self control about things, right? And it starts to get to us to a level that even if I have a thought, right, a negative, a positive, I have to act on it. If I don't like what Usman is saying, I have to tell him that in this very moment, in the way I think it is, right? So we have forgotten to somehow demonstrate self-control and tolerance of difficult things as an entire generation, and more so for the younger ones.
Yeah. So do you think, which it's an opinion that I think that the movies, the content we consume, and these video games, they're
Mhm.
more violent than they were ever in the past few decades. So do you think consuming
Absolutely.
violent content and consuming content is misogynistic, sexist? All these things manifest into children and then they behave in a certain way with their own peers?
100%. It's not your opinion. It is proven by research, and not one or two research. It's proven in psychology throughout history. 12th graders of psychology actually learn this kind of stuff, right?
Oh.
Where children actually learn through observation. They start doing, mimicking, modeling things that they watch, they see, that they hear. Okay. For
Mhm.
that matter, there is this research that said that, for a very long time, the Virgin Islands of the US did not have TVs, okay, because of the sheer problems with transport. And this was also the time where America had started seeing cases with eating disorders, a newfound mental disorder. And till the time there was no television, there were no recorded cases of eating disorders. Only when the media and when this social image of being thin and being a certain way and looking in a certain way and dressing in a certain way started being bombarded on people through media, that's when these issues started coming in. So imagine the level of internalization.
Yeah, true. So it's a very impressionable thing. Like children are impressionable, so they do what they
Yeah.
see, right? So in a
Mhm.
way, and I would also like to take the topic slightly away and talk about pornography, because we've had a lot of people coming up and telling us that they have actually faced sexual trauma after consenting to sex, because their partner's idea of sex, of what he or she thought was right, like what he saw in porn. So they were trying to
Yeah.
reenact all of these situations in real life intercourse, which is a
Yes.
traumatic experience for a lot of people. How do we
Yes.
overcome that?
So I think the biggest and the most important thing that plays a role over here is education, right? Our parents, right? Your parents, my parents, all of our parents have, I think, shied away from talking about these things to us, right? I mean, I remember probably having a really awkward conversation in a car when my mom was like, "Okay, so we had got a notice that some doctors were coming in. So did you know about sex today?" And I'm like, I knew about it earlier. And today they told us something which we already knew, and it was pretty crappy. Okay. So, in short, we are never told what sex is and how it is done and how should it be done and what are realistic expectations. So,
True.
because we never know, we are never taught this, we are never, we never talk about it. So,
Mhm.
we generate false ideas about how things are.
So it's necessary to talk. It's, I think it's on the elders, not just the elders like our parents, but grown boys and grown up girls to talk to their cousins and their
Right.
brothers and sisters about how it's happening. It's true. Now
Absolutely.
talking about okay, yeah, please continue.
Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, I think it's important in the education, it's important to the older generations. I remember no matter how awkward my cousin felt, I tried my best to educate both of my cousins younger to me. And I spoke to them about what it is, how you feel, and how it is. I've had an experience about it. So I don't mind opening up about it, right? It's important that we help them understand what emotions, thought processes go in the process.
Yeah. So now, talking about trauma, I would like to now discuss a little in detail about depression. So
Hmm.
we've spoken to a lot of people who have experiences with depression, and all of them, all 20, 25 of them have
Hmm.
different stories. Like none of these
Yes,
two stories overlap. It's
yes,
scary to think that there are, we spoke to 25 people, and all of them had different paths to depression. It's scary to
absolutely.
think that what causes depression. So
Hmm.
exactly
Sometimes
what causes
nothing.
depression? Really?
Sometimes nothing. Yeah, because I remember when I went through a very sad, depressing phase in my life, everything in my life was literally picture perfect. I was just out of my master's. I had gotten a job in a second immediately. I was in a very happy relationship. I was living with my parents, and I belonged to an affluent background. So I had no problems with money and, any of that. I drove a car to work, okay? And yet I was depressed. So I think what's important to know is we all have a genetic tendency of depression in us that can be triggered by some kind of thought processes, that can be triggered either by some kind of environmental factors. In my case, it wasn't the situations, environment, it was more my own thought process, right?
Mhm.
So depression will come. It's just kind of gets triggered with how you think. But it's important that you know that it happens in the body as well. It's wrong to say that it is only in the mind. It happens because of chemical disturbances in your body. So that is not something we can control by ourselves.
True. So now is there a difference between being in depression and being depressed?
I don't think there is there's a big difference, but I just see people using both these things very interchangeably,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's wrong to use any of those, because that's exactly how the person feels in that moment. But what I can tell you about depression is that depression comes in a lot of different forms. Okay, the first form is a full blown illness. Okay, it's a mental illness, which is 8 different types of depression that can be diagnosed by a psychiatrist only. Okay, there is also depression which is symptomatic, meaning as a result of some other problem you are going through depression. For example, if you have a disease like cancer or thyroid dysfunction or endometriosis, right, or postpartum, then you will go through depression as a symptom of a bigger problem. And the third major kind of depression, I would say, is depression that is situational. When something grave happens in your life, something big, according to you, something big, okay, not according to the people. For you, something big can be somebody's death, or for you it can be losing a very dear pen. Okay, so if something big happens or does not happen in your life, that's also when you can feel depressed. So these are the 3 major kinds, and each of these have different treatment, different causes, and each of these have a different course and how it feels.
So technically, you can fall in depression because of your own thoughts that you manifest inside yourself, which can be which can be trauma and your life experiences as well.
Yeah.
And it can also happen because of other people's behavior towards you.
No, it doesn't happen because of other people's behavior towards you. When people behave badly towards you, you may think about it in a certain way, as a result of which you may feel depressed. Of course, situations people may trigger but don't cause. It's very important that we understand that. People don't feel depressed because of other things. They feel depressed because there is something in their body, because there is something in their mind that was ticked off or triggered off by these difficult situations.
Yeah. So do you think these time bombs, as you mentioned, these time bombs get triggered off because the person has not acknowledged these things, these thoughts, or has simply shied away from them?
It's possible that they haven't acknowledged it. It's also possible that they acknowledged it in a wrong manner.
Hmm.
Right, for example, I cross by a classroom, see my friend sitting inside, I wave at her and she just looks past me, does not wave at me, right? I In the same situation, one person could think, oh, she must be busy, the other person could think, oh, she hates me, right? Or
Okay.
someone else could think she's ashamed of me in front of her other friends. So depends on what meaning you attach to things in your life, right? When something really bad happens, right, if you lose a loved one, some people may learn to think that it's only me, the world is mean and unfair to me. But some people may understand that no matter how sad it is and unfair it might be, but it still happens to anybody,
So it's
right?
technically what you are thinking. It's technically how you deal with your
Absolutely.
thoughts, right? So
Yeah.
uh, now there are different types of personalities. Right? There are introverts and there are
Mhm,
extroverts.
mhm,
Now,
mhm.
do you think that an introvert trying to become an extrovert and then failing at it is also a cause of depression?
Okay, so in short, anybody who is not able to live up to who they are, right, and try to judge themselves for being who they are, not accept themselves and try to be someone else for the world, is going to face problems, right? Whether it be somebody who is an introvert trying to be an extrovert, or extrovert trying to be an introvert, or homosexual trying to be heterosexual in front of the world, it can be anything. Okay, so any of these factors, when you judge yourself to be a certain way, right, when you judge yourself to not want to talk to people and therefore want to change yourself desperately, right, that's when you will have problems. It's natural.
So I think here I would like to bring in a clause of responsibility. Some people are responsible for the family, right? So they need to go out and perform jobs which they are not comfortable in. just to stay afloat. So there are people who
Yeah.
are working in jobs which they are not cut out for, and
Right.
it's a zimmedari. You cannot run from it. What would you advise them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now, first thing is, because this question has come after introvert extrovert question, I would like to address this. And a lot of people have very, very wrong notions about this. Introverts aren't people who hate talking to other people. They are just people who probably would not initiate the first conversation, who, when they have empty time, would not like to constantly socialize, who would not like to constantly talk to people, right? But it's not that they hate talking to people. It's not that they have social anxiety all the time,
Mhm.
right? They may be absolutely fine and confident talking to other people, but may not just enjoy it. It's not for them. It's almost like somebody not enjoying a certain kind of movie. Okay, it's just like that. It's how these people are. And I don't think introverts are more depressed than extroverts. Both of them have their own levels, and both of them can be depressed, right? Now, coming to your next question was, when people are in professions that are kind of against their nature or they don't enjoy, right? Yes, it can be very difficult. I have done a lot of work in the field of career, and I always tell people that career is literally like your marriage. Okay, it can give you just as much happiness and satisfaction and just as much displeasure and plight. Okay, and when you are in an unsuitable profession, it is difficult. But I also know of a lot of people who have survived and lived till the end by their own wishes and desires in unhappy marriages, right? Meaning, it's not possible. Yeah, it's not impossible, right? When
Right.
you have to do it, when there is literally almost like a gun to your head because you have to do this for survival, then do you really have any other option but adjust to it?
You need to adapt to your more primitive need of survival in that way.
Yes, and that's what humans do. The problem happens when we are not able to accept it, when we keep saying, "Ki, this shouldn't be happening, this shouldn't be happening, this shouldn't be happening," and we are fixated on how it should not be happening, rather than accepting that, fuck, it has happened. It's not nice, but it has happened, and let's see what we can do about it.
And in this time, it's a good idea to call for help as well if you feel these negative thoughts overburden.
Yes,
We can help you navigate that.
yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Talking about different type of people, women and men.
Mhm.
Women are more susceptible to depression as compared to
Yes,
men.
yes.
Right. So is it also fair to say that there should be different policies to address women's mental health and men's mental health in the workplace?
Yes, but before we go to that, it's important that we understand why women are more susceptible, right? Women are more susceptible because they have a whole set of hormones that directly affect depression, right? When a girl goes through, menarche, just starts her period, that's also when she can feel depressed. When she is going through pregnancy, that's when she can feel depressed. When she's done with pregnancy, there is an entire form of depression called postpartum depression. That's when she can feel depressed. When she's going through menopause, that's a really long depressive phase in women's life, right? So what at workplace people need to understand is these are the typical triggers of depression in women, and it's just that we need to probably make better arrangements to accommodate these and become more friendly and understanding of these issues that they may be happening.
Okay. So do you think that anxiety plays a
Mhm.
major role in causing depression? Because the stages that you've mentioned, these are all very new. These are stages that you get introduced to throughout your life. So
Yeah,
it's a kind of an uncertain thing that what might happen with me, what might I face. So uncertainty brings anxiety. And do you think
yeah.
piled up anxiety causes depression?
Depression and anxiety are best friends. In short, they come ek ke saath ek free. If you are depressed, it's highly likely you will be anxious. If you are anxious, it is highly likely you will be depressed,
But
right?
people get
It's difficult to say what causes which one in who, right? But both of them, as I said, kind of coexist, and it's very common. And the major reason I will tell you is, for example, I'll tell you how vicious cycle of depression is and how it is related to anxiety. So we feel depressed. When we feel depressed, we don't feel like working. When we don't feel like working, we procrastinate, don't accomplish things. And when we don't accomplish things, we feel anxious. Oh my God, I haven't even done this. How will I do it ahead, right? And that further worsens your emotions and makes you feel depressed. So it's a vicious cycle. The only way of evading this cycle is push yourself to do things even when you just don't think you can do them. Man nahi kar raha hai to bhi karo, right? That is one way of making sure at least the depression that is being caused is not increasing. Usko kam se kam badhao mat, right? And seek help with a professional to help control and change it completely. But badhao mat, do things.
Do you think a routine is the best way to tackle depression? Like having a routine,
Uh,
you have something to look forward to.
Right. Okay. I wouldn't say it is the best way of tackling depression, but it is definitely one probable way of tackling depression, right? So whenever I work with people who are depressed, which is a lot of people, okay, I always tell them that they have to work on not increasing it, and we will work together on uprooting it, right? Meaning, almost सोचो कि एक झाड़ है, right? एक पौधा है, right? If you don't like this, you need to uproot it. That is what the psychologist will do. But at the same time, if you keep giving it khad and pani and right kind of sunlight and nutrients, it will grow and it will become very difficult to uproot it. So you stop giving it the things that it needs, and we try to uproot it.
Right. So it's technically you need to acknowledge the problem first.
You need to acknowledge the problem first and decide to, with a lot of heart and mind, decide to fight against it, even though it's going to be bloody difficult.
Okay. So the most common answer that we heard is that depression is the worst kind of hopelessness that you feel. Like there is absolutely
Yeah.
no motivation in people to get up and do
Mm-hmm.
it. And a lot of people can't understand what it means because they haven't felt it, or probably they have, but they don't acknowledge it yet.
Yes.
So how can someone, how can a friend help in that way? What are the things that you should do and say to help a person?
Right. Depression is like the dementors of Harry Potter, right? Where it literally sucks out every positive and happy memory and leaves you hollow. Okay. So once you understand that that is what it is, it's like a dementor, you can fight it with your happy memories. Okay. That doesn't mean I'm saying, look at your happy memories. What I'm saying is you can tackle it by helping people stay afloat, right? And as a friend, the things that you need to help them to stay afloat is one, push them to exercise, right? Because when your body exercises, it releases serotonin, which actually helps with depression. Okay. So push them to exercise, push them to follow a certain routine and do the basic chores. Third, push them to do things that they used to enjoy but have stopped enjoying right now. So these are the three things that people kind of need to push their friends to do. And lastly, be there for them. Understand, unka man nahi karega. Don't get irritated on them when they say constantly ki nahi aana hai, man nahi kar raha hai, chhod na, when they avoid your calls, right? Just tell them that it's okay that they feel like that, but the only way they can be out of it is when they try, and help them try.
All right. So what are some of the things that you should never say to a person who is asking for help?
A lot of things. Don't say most things that come to your mind. Okay.
It's a very good answer.
Yeah. Don't tell most things that come to your mind. यार क्या पका दिमाग में भी से यार क्या वही पका रही है बार बार वही बोल रही है, right? Don't make a dull face. Don't tell them that कुछ कर, कुछ productive कर, yoga kar, exercise kar, ye kar, wo kar. Don't give them solutions, right? Your solution may not be their solution. Okay. Don't give them solutions, and don't tell them it's just a phase, you will feel better, everything will be all right. Because, well, what if it isn't? How do you know everything will be all right? Life is such that it can punch you yet again and then kick you yet again and then, hammer you with something else. Okay. So don't say things that are not 100% true. Ask yourself, is this 100% true? Right? And therefore, try to respond in ways what saying that I am really sorry you're feeling like this. Is there anything I can do? Right? Tell them that I'm your friend and I want to help, but I don't know what to do. Is there anything that is there anything you think you need from me? Call them more and just tell them that, I want to be there, and, do you want to have coffee, or do you want to watch a movie together? Right? So ask yourself, जो मैं बोल रही हूँ क्या ये 100% true है? And only then say that statement.
Yeah, just moments ago you said that, like, to counter depression or just to have control on your depression, you need to exercise. But then your friends shouldn't force you to exercise. It should come from your own motivation.
Right. But the friends can make it easier by saying, hey, I'm thinking about joining a gym, but I can't do it by myself. Please, please, please help me.
Right. Cool. So
do it with me, right? Zaruri nahi hai you have to go join a gym. You can go running together, just for a walk together. You can switch on a dance video on YouTube and together dance on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we found a very dangerous trend online that we went on and we searched for ways, an online test to find out if you have depression or not. And these tests are random tests that will ask you about your sexual life and are you earning, and most of these questions act as trigger for the person who is already depressed. So how do you find out if you are depressed, like you are actually depressed, you are in depression and you need help now?
Okay, so if you really want to find out, instead of doing any random test online, there is a free, scientific and very reliable test which is online. Okay, this is something that you can take, and because this test is free and it is authorized, I can say about it, right? You can take a Beck's depression inventory or a Beck's anxiety inventory. This is called BAI and BDI. It's up there, free for download. Take this test, right? And and it also says how you can score it or measure it. And once you score it and measure it and you see, the scores are high, go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a mental health professional who can help you. In short, how do you know whether you are feeling depressed? Is the biggest marker is that you have stopped taking interest in things that you used to enjoy. जो पसंद था वो पसंद नहीं आता है, right? You have started kind of avoiding people you love and isolating yourself. Your appetite and your sleep cycle has changed, and you don't feel motivated. मन नहीं करता, कुछ करने का मन नहीं करता, right? Apart from a lot of other symptoms like lack of concentration, lack of motivation, irritation, sexual problems. These are the major criteria. So keep a lookout at these things. Yeah, and if you think that's happening, then you can probably seek help.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people must be feeling isolated and depressed because of this lockdown that's going on. And a lot of us and a lot of people actually have to come face to face with people who have abused them. They are more prone to sexual violence, domestic violence, to see violence on a daily basis. So how does someone keep their sanity in all these conditions?
It's very difficult. And it's especially difficult because, and I know this, so a lot of my clients, some of my clients would be seeking therapy with me outside their home because their parents, their husband, or other people in their home did not know and did not approve of therapy, right? But now, ever since there's a lockdown, they have stopped seeking help and gone back to a worse environment, right? I know they are getting worse and worse, but the one thing, if you can't seek help right now, the one thing that you can do is, even though everything seems bleak and you don't have clear goals, try to form goals in your life, right? Anything, like for example, it can be I have to do the jhadu pocha every single day, right? It can be just goals and routine related to your chores, but please do them. Don't give away your routine and cycle. Try to exercise every day. It is essential. Not any exercise, specifically cardio. Even if you can stand in one place and do jumping jacks, works, right? But the two things you can probably do is form a routine and form goals, and the other is exercise.
Yeah, and moreover, I would like to point out something that is a concern for a lot of people is the finance that is required to go for therapy. Like on an average, a normal psychologist or a psychiatrist would take $1,000 for one session, and you have to go for like 4 sessions every month. So that is
Yeah.
4,000 rupees only in therapy, excluding the medicine cost. So
Right.
yeah, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so therapy is expensive. And the major reason therapy is expensive is because the correct kind of education for therapists is also expensive. Meaning, the kind of professionals we given the amount of time, energy, effort, money to be here is a lot, and that makes therapy expensive. But of course, I understand that therefore it becomes unaffordable for a lot of people, right? So there are helplines. Okay, there are online sources, there are free helplines, there are centers that provide this kind of help for a lower cost, right? And that will help you stay afloat. Another good option is, if private personal therapy doesn't work for you, think of attending support groups. Okay, now again, sadly, because India and psychology in India is not correctly evolved enough. Right now I use the word correctly, and I'll come to that a little later. But it's because it's not correctly evolved enough. Not a lot of professionals do support groups, but support groups are basically a very small group of people working on a specific problem together, right, with a trained therapist. And these are not very expensive. These would be 100, 200, 300 rupees per support group. And I think that is a much lower cost than $1,000 or 1,500 bucks or whatever it is that therapists charge.
Okay, so Barkha, I think we've exhausted our time for today, but it was great
Okay.
talking to you. And I would like to tell everyone that Barkha is a counseling psychologist and a psychiatrist, and we've
A psychotherapist.
psychotherapist. I'm sorry, a psychotherapist,
Right.
and we have mentioned her contact in the description below. So if you
Mhm.
feel like you need help or you need counseling, you can always reach out to her. And
Right.
thank you so much for being here, Barkha. It was great having you.
I was very happy coming here because it's been a fight that I've been fighting. Luckily, I've had a lot of people like you in my support to help people understand and acknowledge about mental health issues. And this is for everyone out there who is watching this or any other content. Please understand that mental health is something you can get trained in. It's almost like learning math, right? ट्यूशन जाके हम लोग मैथ सीख सकते हैं, उसी तरह थेरेपिस्ट के पास जाके यू कैन लर्न द राइट काइंड ऑफ स्किल्स टू हेल्प यू कोप विथ डिफिकल्ट adversities in life, right? Also, you are not going to require to take medicines all the time. Okay, all the time meaning, for that matter, the clients I see, out of 100 clients, I think only probably 10 of them are taking medicines for the different mental health issues. 90% of them are not on any kind of medication. Only therapy helps. It gives you the skills. Okay, it is almost, okay, call it like your Google Maps while you are driving. Okay, so if you need help, please let me or anyone, any trained mental health professional, be your Google Maps and drive to a better destination. It's possible. Before you take adverse steps, remember we are here and there is help and hope.
Yeah, that was the best end credits for any movie. But
Thank you.
thank you so much again, Barkha. I hope to have you again on the show. And thank you so
Yes,
much for
I'll
coming.
be happy to come. All
Yeah,
right, bye everyone, and stay safe and stay sound.
yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.